Thanks to Dirk Tolouse, maker of Schmechs, Kai and Goolie survived their date with Dottie. Now, Goolie, Kai, and their few allies go head-to-head with Gabriel, Donnie, Wital the Hammer, Valenti, and a passel of Valenti's goons. Crank that burner all the way to high as we head into the last 3 episodes of The Reef. Welcome to the serialized audiobook, The Reef, written by Scott Sigler and Matt Wallace. Narrated by Scott Sigler. Hello, junkies! Yes, it's true. Only 3 episodes left, including this one. Ever have to go to the post office, burn all that time, wait in line at the post office, and think to yourself, how the hell am I going to rule the world when I'm standing in line behind these jabronis? Well, wait in line no more! Use your own computer and printer to kick out real USPS postage with Stamps.com. Hand your package to the postal worker, oh yeah, and boom, you are done. Do you want to give it a try and get some free postage and get a free postal scale? Go to scottsigler.com/stamps to learn more. We use Stamps.com all the time for our business. I don't think we can make a profit without it. That's scottsigler.com/stamps. Check it out. The big Q&A episode for The Reef is coming up. Email your questions about The Reef, about the Galactic Football League, about Siglers, and more anything Sigler related to info@emptyset.com. You can even email an MP3 and hear me react to your question in real time. What? Yes, it's true. Hear your voice and hear my voice as I layeth the smacketh down upon your question. Now, let's get down, let's get back up again, let's get funky with The Reef, episode number 11. Chapter 19. Fecal Matter Meets Rotary Oscillator. Gabriel sat back in his chair in front of Valenti's desk. The last time he'd sat here, Tong had been with him. Tong had been alive. And, of course, Gabriel's face had been normal. "I'm glad to hear you'll be sticking around for a while," Valenti said. "After the slab is back in order, I've got plans to expand. This silly reef marshal business has to end. Someone in Kick My Ass thinks they can make lawmen that will mess with my business. That means they've taken out the Spindleton family. And that means Kick My Nuts is ripe for the taking. Once we kill these marshals there, of course, I'll need a smart man there to run things for me, Gabriel. A smart man like you." Gabriel knew he was smarter than the rest of Valenti's men combined. Not that that was saying much. But smarts weren't the real reason Valenti wanted Gabriel around. Nope. It was obvious Valenti wanted a first-class hitter. And having that hitter look like something out of a horror flick sure didn't hurt. Valenti would use Gabriel as a weapon, as a boogeyman, to spread fear of Valenti's gang far and wide. Gabriel was fine with that. "I would have thought you'd be more upset about the slab," he said. "Doesn't that mess up your business?" Valenti snorted. "Hardly. We lose maybe a week's payments from just one line item on my balance sheet. Not a big deal. Most of what Marshall North destroyed were stalls of canvas and wood. Those will be rebuilt in a day or 2. And it's not like he could do damage to a damn pit dug in the ground. I'm afraid his temper tantrum was all thunder and no lightning. He should have found a better way to hurt us before his date with Dottie." Gabriel couldn't suppress a shiver. He hadn't seen a Rama beast in person, only in a few holos. That was plenty for him. Nasty creatures. He had to admit, as far as deterrence went, Valenti's was top-notch. Gabriel would think twice before crossing his new boss. "We should kill that whore," he said. Valenti raised an eyebrow. "Why? She did what my boys told her to do." Gabriel shrugged. "Seems to me you're only sending half a message. You either kill everyone who associated with Kari, or you don't." Valenti waved a hand, dismissing the thought. "This business is all about keeping your word," he said. "And besides, you brought her to me. She's waiting in my bedroom. I've purchased her services for the evening." Valenti reached into a desk drawer, pulled out a bottle of scotch. "The real stuff," Valenti said. "Macallan, all the way from Earth. None of that gin crap. You'll find, Gabriel, that when you are in my inner circle, you'll have access to more luxuries than you might think." Gabriel would have laughed, but it wasn't funny. The reef was nowhere. 3 weeks' travel to ship anything here. It was as far away from civilization as far away got. More luxuries than he might think? That meant he'd be lucky to have a tenth of what he could get in any town or city in the Union, the League, the Republic. Hell, even the nation looked like the height of civilization compared to the reef. Luxuries? You mean like doctors who could sculpt faces? No, of course not. Luxuries meant a damn bottle of booze. "Thank you, Mr. Valenti." Scotch, vodka, gin, beer was all the same to Gabriel. But his independent operator days were over for a while. Might as well have a drink with the boss. Gabriel took a sip. Maybe he'd never actually tasted real scotch before. It was a hell of a lot better than gin. "Mr. Valenti, seems to me you could have your fun tonight. Then the girl never leaves this building. Best of both worlds. I could take her out to your chains, leave her for Dottie. Wouldn't it be nice for her to die in the same place as her poor departed boyfriend?" Valenti took a sip of his own drink. "That's not an altogether bad idea, Gabriel. Not bad at all. But maybe I'll keep her here tomorrow as well. Word is, she's gifted at her craft. If you want to kill everyone who is associated with Kari, the first thing you can do is track down a heavy key for us." "A heavy key?" "I told you about that saloon we rousted. The owner, that wrinkled old man, he's gone. But there was a heavy key regular there. Name of Fluff, I think." "A heavy key named Fluff," Gabriel said. "You're serious?" Valenti gestured to the office around him, a motion meant to take in the entire building. "Supposedly this rotund mound of filth is the last descendant of the family that made this building, that used to run the town. He was in the bar, but Donnie and Wital somehow let him get away." "Donnie is an idiot," Gabriel said. Valenti nodded. "That he is. That he is." "So where is this Fluff?" "That's your job, Gabriel. Find him and do away with him. But that's for tomorrow. For now, let us talk about my plans for Kick My Nuts." Wital the Hammer watched Donnie dip his mug into the beer trough, come up with a full glass.
"I will never understand it,"
Wital said.
"Why you fill yourselves with such poison is beyond me."
Donnie smiled at his Quith warrior co-worker, raised the glass high, and shouted out a toast. "To Mr. Valenti!" Besides Donnie and Wital, there were 9 sentients in the long room. They all raised mugs of their own and cheered. Wital knew 2 things about humans. They loved to make jokes about feces, and they loved to ruin themselves on distilled plant rot. Wital liked this room. The front doors of the big building, big for break my back anyway, opened into it. Anyone coming in or going out had to go through this room. Hence, the constant presence of sentience that could cause significant damage. High ceilings, polished slate floors, walls made of slate blocks cemented together. There were plenty of lights, but their illumination wasn't enough to chase away the room's blackness. Some of the light came from the fire in the hearth at the room's end. Wood was a prized commodity on the reef. Burning it for show was a testament to Valenti's wealth. Mounted on pegs above the hearth, a huge shotgun. On the mantel, 4 rounds of ammunition for it, each the size of one of Wital's pedipalp forearms. In the center of the room sat a long slate table. Wital appreciated that touch. It was like a soldier's table in the stories of old, where fellow warriors would sit together, talking about the day's fighting, planning where to raid next. Sentient sat at wooden chairs at the table. 8 of Valenti's soldiers, all human, along with Highside, who was clearly the drunkest sentient in the room. A few meters past the table, heavy, wide stairs led up to the second floor. The space beneath the stairs was open on both sides, home to some cardboard boxes, a big trash can, and a dirty mattress. There were always at least 5 guards in this room, but it was boring duty. They took turns sleeping to help pass the time. Around the outside of the room stood 8 of those horribly constructed mechs, which lined the walls like old suits of armor. Those, combined with the long table and the hearth, really did make the room look like an ancient hall of war. One of the mechs had a blood-stained white jersey on it. REEF Stompers, Wital's favorite team. The jersey was a trophy, taken from an enemy of Valenti. Another trophy from that man hung on a peg next to the big shotgun. A silver chain, from which dangled the shiny brass badge of a REEF Marshal, whatever that was supposed to be. The oddest thing about the room, though, was the beer trough. It had apparently been a trough for blood, back when some obscure key family had built this place. The table had been the killing surface for that family's live meals. Grooves in the table collected the blood, floated into the trough. The key were savages. Raw food, abominable. That family was long gone, though. That's what Valenti had told Wital when Wital joined the operation a few weeks back after arriving from OS-1. This wasn't the best outfit in the galaxy, but it was better than Wital had had in a while. His first Schmechs, Oket the Bland, had died of old age. Wital had searched for a new leader, found one in Topit the Twitchy. When Topit's outfit had been butchered by Dagad the Deadly, Wital had fled OS-1. There was nothing there for him anymore. Tradition said Wital should have stayed and died by Topit's side, but he'd only sworn fealty to that particular Schmechs a few days before the bloody coup. Since Dagad said anyone who served Topit had to die, Wital caught the first flight out of Concordia space. That flight had been to the Reef. He could have gone to Kick My Nuts or some of the other Quith-run towns, but where you had a Quith-led town, you had Quith. Wital wanted to stay as far away from his own kind as possible. Dagad's execution order would spread, and quickly. It was when Wital first fought in the pit that he caught Valenti's attention. Highside had watched Wital kill 2 humans in a match. The weapon of the day had been crowbars, and had immediately sent him here to meet with Valenti. A few hours later, Wital had a new Schmechs. Things had worked out for the best. Marshal Kyle North walked down the middle of Main Street. The few people on the street at this late hour saw him coming, him and what was behind him, and all but dove for cover. Doors slammed shut. Windows slid closed. Word had most likely gotten out that he was dead, yet here he was, walking right down Main Street toward the building that housed the sentients who had supposedly killed him. Even for the low IQs of Break My Back, it was easy to see that this nighttime stroll would end in ultra-violence. Kai had a homemade spitter in a holster slung low on his right thigh. A typical product of Toulouse's, cobbled together from various industrial detritus. Kai had tested it, though, and found the results also typical of something made by Tolouse. It was accurate and powerful. Gabriel, that sweet guy, had stripped Kai of his white jersey. In its place, Kai wore a blue t-shirt with the red words Schmech Emporium across the chest. It was all Tolouse could spare. The shirt was too tight for Kai, made him look more muscular than if he'd been wearing no shirt at all. If he ever collected a paycheck from the Reef Marshals, maybe he could stop wearing other people's clothing and buy some of his own. It was time to finish this. Valenti was going down. Donnie and Wital were going to pay for what they'd done. Kai was going to wipe out everyone involved in Valenti's gang. He'd thought it out this time. More accurately, he'd talked it over with Goolie. Together, they'd come up with a 4-point plan. Maybe it wasn't the best plan in the world, but it was a whole lot better than Kai going off all half-cocked and destroying everything in sight. At the end of the street, he saw the blocky red building, Valenti's residence, headquarters of his gang, one-time home of the key family that founded this town. Kai stopped. So did what walked behind him. He was lucky to be alive, sure. He'd been lucky to be alive before. This was different. Different because he was thinking ahead. He had an honest chance at a life here. Break My Back could be his home. But first, he had to take out the trash. He started walking again. At the double doors of the Red War Lodge stood a massive pink mining mech and a couple of human toughs. There were more mechs inside those doors, Kai assumed, but before he could deliver Toulouse's little gift, the mining mech had to go. Kai stopped again, maybe 20 meters from the lodge. The humans stirred. Did they recognize him? "Checkers," Kai said. "Take out that Schmech." From behind Kai, the big red and white construction mech strode forward with big, heavy steps. Tolouse had wanted Kai to use Checkers' demolitions launcher on Valenti himself, some kind of special payback, but now that wouldn't happen. Checkers was phase 1 of the grand plan. The construction mech raised one arm. The two humans saw the threat, started to react, but it was too late. A rocket flared forth from Checkers' arm, closed the distance in 2 seconds. Something chunked into the pink Schmech's shoulder. There was just enough of a pause to make Kai wonder if the charge had failed. Then an explosion sent a pink arm flying. Shrapnel shredded the two humans, splattered the red door with red blood. The mining Schmech wobbled, then strode forward. "Checkers, finish him off. And you, my friend," Kai said over his shoulder, "now you can get your honor back." Checkers sprinted forward. The pink mining Schmech rushed out to meet it, and the being standing behind Kai headed for the lodge. Valenti cocked his head, listened to the explosion's fading echo. "Gabriel, go find out what happened." The hideous man stood. He knocked back the rest of his second scotch. "Maybe you should wait in your bedroom, Mr. Valenti." "An excellent idea." Gabriel drew his spitter. He headed for the stairs down to the main room. Valenti ran out of the office. It was an attack of some kind, or maybe one of the hicks had gotten tired of paying protection money and had thrown together a Molotov cocktail. Either way, it wasn't the first time Valenti had taken shelter while he let his people do their job. He entered his bedroom, shut the door behind him. Dahlia was sitting on the bed. She'd put on the clothes Valenti had told her to put on. Garters and black fishnet stockings, black high-heeled pumps, and a lovely black lace bustier. "You look splendid," he said. She didn't answer. She just stared at him, wide-eyed. "Ah, the explosion," he said. "Don't be afraid. My men will take care of it. When you're here, you're as safe can be." He took one step toward her, then froze as a needle drove deep into his neck. Valenti recovered enough to turn and face his attacker. A hurrah, floating there, empty syringe held in one mouth flap.
"She's safe,"
the hurrah said.
"but you're not."
The wounds in the wing flaps. It had to be Goolie. But Dottie. What did you... The rest of Valenti's question died on his lips. The muscles there, just like the muscles in his arms and legs, simply stopped working. He collapsed in a pile on his floor. He could still see, he could still hear. "Oming Valenti," the hurrah said.
You are under arrest by order of the Court of Carryhark County.
All of the humans were inebriated. Wital could see that in the way they reacted to the sound of the explosion. Some had fallen out of their chairs. Some had stood up only to stumble around, trying 2 and even 3 times to draw their spitters. Donnie was a little better than the others, but he wasn't anywhere near 100%. "Franco, Choosy Bob, get ready to open the doors," Donnie said, as he drew his spitter from a shoulder holster. Wital wanted to correct Donnie, as Choosy Bob was a better shot and should be at the back of the room, but Choosy Bob was one of Valenti's favorites. If anything happened to Choosy Bob, Wital would move 1 step closer to being Valenti's personal bodyguard, if that newcomer Gabriel hadn't already locked up the role. "Wital," Donnie said, "get those damn Schmechs going. When I give the word, Franco and Bob will open the doors. You send the Schmechs out." A glimmer of real leadership from Donnie? Wital felt that familiar urge to do as he was ordered.
Mechs 1 through 8 to the front doors. Prepare to exit on my command,
Wital said. He refused to use that word, Schmech. It was ridiculous. Probably yet another human slang term for feces. Choosy Bob and Franco each grabbed a door handle. The 8 mechs lumbered toward the door. "On 3, Donnie said. Choosy Bob and Franco nodded. 1, Donnie said. 2. The doors slammed inward as something huge burst through them, sending Franco and Choosy Bob flying. A battering ram made of flesh and bone. A heavy key, the same one who had fled the brace when Wital and Donnie dealt with that old human, Dynamite. The heavy key came to a stop amidst the 8 Schmechs, then rose up. Just the front half of him was 3 meters tall. Black eyes stared out with a clarity Wital hadn't seen in them that night in the brace. Gabriel was halfway down the stairs when the massive key blasted through the door, knocking 2 large men backward as if they were toddlers. In that instant, Gabriel assumed this was the fluff Valenti had told him to find. Based on the 8 Schmechs closing in, Fluff wasn't going to live very long. The heavy key lifted one arm. He was holding something in his big hand, something with a button on it. A detonator.
Gulag,
The key said, and pressed the button. That's it for episode number 11 of The Reef. Enter the fluff! Things are going to get crazy. The next episode is going to be soaked in blood. Literally soaked in blood. Only 2 more episodes of story to go, plus our super awesome, extra special, double plus good bonus Q&A episode. Those are always a blast. Don't forget, get your questions and or comments emailed in to info@emptyset.com so we can get you on the Q&A episode. That is it for this week. We will be back next week with the ultra-violent episode number 12 of The Reef. And until then, we will talk to you all real soon.